Hi, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're watching this. This session, I want to show you how I did a track, one of my tracks, very popular, known as Conqueror. It's a full orchestral mock-up. I don't know why they call it mock-up, but it's an orchestral production in the box. But I don't like calling the box, so I like to call it infinite digital space because it has no end of possibilities. When you are using your computer to produce, you can make it sound like whatever you want. So I'm going to play the track first. Let me check to be sure that my microphone is really okay. I'm seeing some signal over there. I need to also confirm that everything is fine. Okay, yes, I can get my signal. So I'm going to play the exported track, which you can see here. The title here is Great is Thy Victory, O Conqueror by Valsymphonies. Okay, so let's take a listen and then we'll actually dive into the door, how I'm going to show you what I did, and if we still have some time, I'll show you one or two stuff of what I did at the mastering stage. Okay, all right, let's listen. Okay, I'm going to jump to a particular section. I don't want to play all at the same time. I'm going to be listening to it bit by bit in the door. So let's just move a little bit faster. And if you are not really listening, you can't hear my audio, please just indicate. Just let me know that you do not really pick the audio. So that will really help for me to set my audio settings. Okay, thank you. So let's listen, let's continue. Alright, you heard that. Let's also move a little bit forward. Alright, that's a good one. Let's listen to this part. This should be the second portion of this Great is Thy Victory track, okay? This like choirish kind of stuff. It sounds like a Christmas song, or yeah, I call it winter celebration song, but it's more of like choir kind of production, okay? So take a listen. Okay, already I can feel the impact of the music already. Whoa, to me that sounds great. I believe some of you there can also attest to that. Okay, now that's the track. Now let's open up the door. First let me just show you an hint of how the master is. I'm not going to play it. I'm going to show you. This is the master section. This is where I did the mastering. If I want to show you some of the plugins I use, I typically use Pro Q3 and Pro Q2. This for tonal management, and this one was to control the dynamics as a Pro C2. And yes, Actually, this is my metadata. This is the picture you saw there. So I use WaveLab for my basic mastering. Okay, so now let's get back to the main door. We're opening up Cubase 11. That's where I did the original sequencing. So let's see how it works. So this is sequencer. Okay, for those of you who might think that maybe I downloaded this track, I've heard some persons told me, hey, that track was downloaded. I don't know why they thought like that, but maybe because they felt this track is really good and sounds beyond what they thought is like the real thing. Like, how can you get such massive orchestra? How can you get such number of instruments put together to make this a sound the way it sounds? So now you are watching it live. Okay, I'm going to show you some bit by bit. Now you can see it's arranged. Let me bring up one of the kind of call it the rack. So you see the way it worked. So now yes, this is it. I used contact, and this is some of the instruments I used: action string, action strike, and snare. Yes, this, I think this one is from Sinuscore, if I'm not mistaken. It's from, yes, Sinuscore. This Symphonic Essentials, and then this should be another Symphonic Essentials. Okay, yeah, this. Some of you, if you have these plugins, just, some of you think they are, you might have some massive plugins to make things work, but that's not always the case. This is legacy, and then my timpanis, they came from Symphonic Essentials. Symphonic Essentials, I think this from Sinus Cornwell. There are others I also used. I am not able to go through all of that at this initial stage. As we keep going through the the recording, we're going to actually. So now this is another instance of contact. Now I actually sometimes group my instruments with contact instances. Sometimes, not all the time. Not all the time. Like this is the orchestral complete. Okay, did you hear that? Okay, that's it. So now let's just start the play. Okay, let's hear the way it sounds. Let's restart that. I didn't hear some of the instruments. Okay, you can hear that. Okay, when you hear that glitch, and some of my experiences in your DAW, when you hear those glitches, some kind of glitch when you're playing, it's your DAW is telling that some of your plugins or some of your libraries are not awake yet. So sometimes just go back and play it once again. Okay, let's go. My RAM is really asking for help. Alright, I would like to also skip some portion of it. See that glitching? Let's get it back. Now basically, some persons you might hear some comment like, why didn't you edit that out? No, I don't like editing things out when I am showing you how I did my production, because these are part of what happens in the studio. So, and when it happens, how do you take care of that part? When it happens, what do you do? There are different ways to solve that. So this is my own way of doing it. Okay, in this particular instance, oh, it's like the rain is falling. Okay, so okay, did you hear that again? Let's replay that part. Okay, let's play that part again. I would quickly like to show you the mixer, how it looks like. Okay, let's play that part again. Yeah, I just zoomed everything in so you can see the mix console. Okay, I think I'll also want to just have probably only the instrument track. Let me just take away the MIDI tracks, okay, for now. So just see only the instrument track, keep this in. Alright, now you just have a feel of what that sounds like. So now I'm going to be showing you bit by bit, okay, part by part. So I have, if I close this up again, this is this part is just an intro, sample intro I use there, which I'm not really exporting that when I mean for the mastering. I'm not. I think just split for you to hear the way it sounds. Okay, just some samples. Some of you must have heard the samples before, but it sounds good for me to use them as an introductory part into the recording. Okay, it's like giving you this expectation of a particular genre, and then this orchestral part then came in. It's stopping now, right now. Okay, now the orchestral part now came in, 1 2 3, something like that. But I did not really export that for the master, so it's not really something I actually allow for the mastering part. Now I, of course, I like using my control room to actually so I can push my volume up without really coming to my master fade. I don't really like touching my master fade except maybe for some rounding off and closing plugins, like I'm going to show you why I actually did that. I might advise you not to do that, but sometimes it's just good. So now this, I put them in folders as well as groups. These are my percussion. Yeah, here we find my symphony, action, strikes, snares, cymbals, reversed, effects, or in percussions, legacy, dark. Then we have things like my string sections. You see, of course, basically strings, my violins, violas, cellos, uh, and double basses. Yeah, some of them are basically patched strings, all of that put together, all the string parts put together into one, and some of them are a combination of strings and percussion. Then I have this bass. This bass here is basically an electric bass, just to give me that extra low end if I should play that bass for you to hear. Now you heard that. It might not sound that good on its own, but it's doing a lot of things. If I want to replay that with that bass, now if I play without the bass, yes, you can feel something is missing. Yes, it just can add some extra oomph, that solidification at the low end. That's what it's doing. So this, the animated part, where I still use the complete orchestra. Okay, see orchestra complete. Let me bring it up so I can actually read the actual. If you don't have this library, please go for it. I'm really recommending it because it will give you a handful of orchestral, already made orchestral stems. Yes, can I use that word stems? Some engineers don't like that word stems because they feel it's cheating. Okay, but to us, of course, I'm a pianist. I do a whole lot of orchestral works. But the thing is that if I can find a library that can actually make my job easy, should I go for it? Of course, I'll go for it. Some of you are going to give me a thumbs up for that, and some are going to give me a thumbs down for that. But no problem. But the truth is that But the Orchestra Complete is one of those libraries that every film composer, every cinematic composer, anybody doing doing music for videos should have. So just go for it. Just one of those few libraries that are very, very, very awesome. So that one. Did I actually sample something about that? This one. Okay, let me just sample something about it. Just pick one of them. This one is called Horns of Hell, right? Did you hear that? Did you hear that? I mean, who would not want to have this kind of a library? Did you hear that? Okay, that now I'm already feeling this vibe by just touching one note. Oh, this is great. I actually use this during the second session a lot. Oh, so now then we have the winds with that yeah W winds with winds like a flute sustain. Let's see what I think it should be contact instance. I also use there. That's it. This is the woodwind sustain. Whoa, this is great. I like it. Uh, this is nice. This also full string ensemble. Yeah, and this one is a sustain woodwind sustains like an ensemble of woodwinds. Okay, now like that little flute you heard. If I can't remember exactly the place I actually brought that in something I think here. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Now those are part of the beauties of having such libraries and very beautiful, very beautiful, beautiful flute. I don't know what that flute is really called. Can you call it pan flute or just flute? Well, nice, great. It sounds like a piccolo, but nice. It's great. So now let's go for the brass section, which I have is it trombone? Okay, this is triple tongue, one of trumpets. This is brass quartet essentials, and this is the M melody. Yeah, twisted trumpet, and this is the tuba, the one handling the low end of the brass section. That sounds a little bit off, but it sounds good when you put all together with the rest of the orchestra. Now, did you hear that? That kind of stuff here. Yes, that's it. So let's try it again. I think that actually worked with the bass. They work together. If I'm not mistaken, they actually work together. The bass, that's electric bass, and the tuba, they they combine together to give that particular low end. Whoa, did you hear that? You heard that? Very beautiful, warm, sobby kind of bass. Kind of is like extending the low end. Can I say extend low end of the tuba? No, let's just say both the bass, the electric bass, and the tuba are actually extending low ends of the entire orchestra, which is great. When you put, you hear that? Now let's put all of them together. That's it. So while instruments like the strings, the trumpets up there, the top flute you heard actually doing something at the top end, and the high mids, and other instruments like the woodwinds taking care of the mids and low mids, something just to add that warmth in there. So basically, orchestra. I'm kind of I just feel like digressing a little bit. I put you this in perspective for those of you who don't really know much about what an orchestra is. An orchestra is just a combination of all kinds of basic instruments or instruments in their hundreds. Basically, you always have them divided into four major parts. You always have. That's why I see me dividing them into groups here. You always have the strings. You have the brass sections. You have the winds. Okay, all of them are called winds. That would call it on woodwinds. Then you have the percussion. Percussive section is basically always the largest part. Anyway, mine here is not that long, but if you actually pick one of the of the instrument, you are going to discover that they're actually either combined as samples or probably a single instrument put together to make to have this massive or this big symphonic or orchestral patches that can be used for orchestral production. So we're actually using that right now. So now, sorry if I don't really use some terminologies the way you understand, or some of it are actually into the business and like probably he's not really saying stuff that actually link with our kind of vibe or what we feel like. But hello, this is music, this is production, okay? It's not about how probably the kind of language I use, but I think it's about if you can listen to it, you heard what I did and it sounds great in your ears. That's nice, especially those who are orchestrating for movies. This is kind of epic sounds. This is we can also call it cinematics. Of course, this is orchestral production. Like I said, do you hear that sounding good? Now let's go over the different section. Now the way I like to see it. So this is my introduction. Of course, this is my introduction. So my introduction started with full rhythm. Let me open up everything. Okay, you hear that? That was my introduction. Okay, check the mix console. Whoa, that was it. You hear when the flute down came in? Did you hear that? Now, okay, for those of you that are still finding in this thing sounding as if it's I know some of you thinking, are you sure that this guy really produced this thing? Okay, look at this. Are you really going to think that probably all this were actually something you did downloaded from the internet? I know why I'm saying it, because I have heard it over and over. Some guys like, hey, did you really do that or you downloaded it? But this is it. This is my production. Now, did you hear that beautiful transition there? Oh, I heard that. Da, 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 da. Now let's hear everything together. I just feel so good about this production. It was one of my first orchestral production when I started using Contact. I've been doing orchestral production right from the heydays of Reason 4. For those of you who also use rack based kind of DAW, like propeller head Reason 4, and that was great. So I love this vibe. Okay, this is great. Whoa, did you hear that sound effect? Those are this part of the things you do in that make it sound cinematic. These are a combination of the strings and the effects department. Let's hear what that effect department. This legacy dark dimension. Let's open that up and see what's there. Now I'm actually showing you the plugins or the libraries I used, and I don't think I'm going to really have the time to show you the plugins per se, as in a deep processing. Let's hear that. Which of them did that? There's the cymbal did that. That's something like something. Yeah, that sound. I think this is the one. This dark. Let's hear. Let me go over here. So this dark legacy. Did you hear that? It sounds like that's kind of some of those sci-fi kind of sounds you hear, okay, like from Transformers. Let me turn that up a little bit so you can hear. I'm going to turn that down. I want to play again. Did you hear that? That's great. Now I think we also had this cymbal. Let me just hold the percussive section completely. Another thing you heard this action strike doing its thing. So let's go back a little bit to listen to action strike. Okay, that's the percussive section, action strike, and my timpani. Okay, take that again. And my timpani, right? You notice the timpani had certain notes that it plays. The timpani is actually a pitch percussion. It's not on pitch. Timpani has these notes just like your marimba, your xylophone. These are all percussive instruments, okay? But they have notation. Just some of our percussions, like native instrument like Indian tabla, or in fact most of these nativity instruments, that's part of the thing that happened during the production. You see that black screen? Just you can ignore it, don't worry. So it has certain pitch which you can tune. So I also tune my timpanis to make sure that they are is just correct. So let me play that part again. Sorry, I don't want to talk too much, but let me play that part again. Do you hear that? Do you hear that? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. I like to make it happen in octave. I want have up there. Yes, up there, down here. It does that doesn't mean you must do this way, okay? Because like okay, it has to be an octave because Valsymphonies is octave. It's not always so. Valsymphonies have his own style of production based on what I want to hear. So you have yours. So whether it's octave or just the low end or the top end, as long as it gives what you want. Maybe if I have to do this. Anyway, it sounds tiny to me here. Okay, so if I had to do all of this, yeah, this one still giving what I want, but this one I still want a little bit of that top top end. That's it. So now when you put all of that together, you heard now this is the action strike, sorry. Action strike, of course, for those of you that have used the library, it's basically like, can I call it a sample base, but actually looked into, I don't straight forget that. A sample base looked into some kind of using MIDI and key switches. Now you can see there are key switches here. For every of these key switches along this long note here, it's actually changing the rhythm. You hear that? Hear that? Now if I have to mute those key switches, see what happens. Did you hear that? It's just playing. We just played one thing. Okay, let's just say what. Let me mute something else that's going to make it play long. Don't mind the rain is falling. Do you hear that? Just one thing is playing all through. Again. Did you hear that? Because just one key switch. So let's unmute it. Let's unmute that. Let's go. Do you hear that? So with this now you can do a whole lot of beautiful things. Now this is nice. Okay, let's, I hope you are actually getting what I'm saying. So now let's play everything all together. So that's it. Okay. Alright, that was nice. Now we transited into a new section, which I actually now really want to label it like exposition, like intro, the theme, maybe